Complete guys.
Sir, which topic you explain?
Guys,
Society,
please
socialism.
mute yourself. Okay, please mute yourself.
Okay.
చాలా డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తుంది. Sainath. One minute. Okay. In the previous class, we have discussed about associative social process. We have discussed about three types, my dear friends. One is cooperation, the other one is accommodation, and the third one is assimilation. Today we'll be discussing about disassociative social processes. Any process which is going to bring the gap, increase the gap among the individuals, okay, which is going to increase the hatredness among the individuals, that we call it as disassociative social process. Under disassociative social process, it can be classified into two types, my dear friends. Disassociative social processes can be classified into two types. One is competition and the other one is conflict. One is competition and the other one is conflict. We see that in each and every society, we find competition among the individuals, or the countries are going to compete with each other so that they can improve their social conditions, their economical conditions, and whatnot. Sunai Dera ki nahi abhi? Hello.
It's a voice వస్తుంది.
రావట్లేదు అంటున్నారు వీళ్ళు.
No, your voice is clear, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. So we see that each and every person compete with each other so that they can improve their social conditions, they can improve their economical conditions, they can improve their status and whatnot, my dear friends. It is universal in nature. If there is no competition, what happens? They'll be stagnant in the society, or else in the growth, even in the life of the individuals, my dear friends. So let us discuss about the forms of competition, my dear friends. Competitions can be of four types. We can have four types of competition. If people are going to compete with each other so that their status will improve, their social status will improve, then we call it as social competition. America wants to be number one in all the aspects, my dear friends. So page number 108, okay, page number 108, Anjali. So they try to compete with each other so that their social status increases. So we call it as social competition. Then we also have economical competition. Right now, India, China, all the countries are going to compete with each other so that they can improve their economical condition. I'll give one example. Nazo, you please again re-log in. You may listen because the other persons are in a position to listen it. Listen to the lecture, okay? For example, once upon a time, China never allowed any foreign thing into their country, whether it's any product or even the language also. They did not even allow English language to come into their country. Even now, if you want to go to China and pursue masters or MBBS course or any course, my dear friends, they are going to teach you only in Chinese language, not in English. We say in India, Your mother tongue, my mother tongue may be the same, but in spite of that, you are going to talk about the global language, but there they teach only in their native language, that is Chinese. But almost 20 years back, do you know what happened, beta? They have opened English education in their country. It's not like they teach English, but they allowed people to learn. They allowed people to learn English because at the time, the so-called developed countries were looking for cheap labor who can serve them. In India, we have plenty of call centers, but they were also looking for some other countries which can provide or which can do the work on very, very cheaper price. So at the time, China wants to even grab that economical opportunity. So they allowed some people to start English tutorials or English coaching centers so that these people can get some more revenues, my dear friends. So if people are going to compete for economical gains, then we call it as economical competition. The third one is, if people are going to fight for political gains, then we call it as political competition. Right now, you can see in India, there is a competition going on between between Congress party and BJP party. They want to conquer, they want to come into power by hook or crook. Even if you see at the state level, recently you must have seen during the by polls, people have invested a lot of money so that they can come into power, either by policies or by convincing the people or influencing the people in whatever the way they can do it, my dear friends. If they want to come into power, then we call it as political competition. We have social competition, we have economical competition, we also have political competition. And the last one is cultural competition. Right now, people are trying to influence each other's culture. I'll give one example how they do it. When I was kid, like, I used to have 5 varieties of toothpaste when I was kid. I used to have neem, then I used to have salt, then I used to have charcoal, ash powder, and brick powder. Except brick powder, the rest of the other 4 are almost available in each and every house. In our 10th class, we studied that anything which passes through charcoal is 100% finer. But do you know, a Colgate company person came and he said, oh, you're using charcoal, you're using ash powder, all these things. Are you not civilized? And most of the people, in the name of Western culture, they stopped all this fine toothpaste and they started using a new variety of toothpaste, Colgate. And later on, the same person is going to say whether your paste consists of charcoal, whether your paste consists of neem, and so on, my dear friends, and they are going to fool us. So the dominant culture will always try to influence the weaker cultures which are there across the globe. It may be in terms of food patterns, it may be in terms of dress code, it may be in terms of how you interact with the people, what not, my dear friends. Right now, there is a competition going on in order to influence each other's culture on each and every society. That we call it as cultural competition. So competition can be classified into 4 types: social, economical, political, as well as cultural competition. Now, let us discuss about the next one, that is conflict. When people are not in a position to reach their goals in a positive way, in a proper way, then we go for conflict. For example, think you're going to compete, you're going to take part in 100 meters running race. But all the time, XYZ is winning the battle, and all the time you're second position. So at any cost, you want to get that number 1 position. What will you do? You may try to work effectively, but whatever you do, you're not getting that number 1 position. At the time, what we do better, there are some people, they may think that this is my fate, I can't do anything. But there are some people, they may use unfair means. They can stop the player, number 1 player, from coming and taking part. They can be kidnapped, or else they can also be killed, so that this number 2 person can also become number 1. So at that time, it is nothing but conflict. Someone has raised the hand, better. Please unmute yourself and tell. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Someone has raised their hand. Okay. Now, conflict is also one of the, yes, guys, if there is any problem, please unmute yourself and tell me. Hello? Lakshmi Chapamma. Hello? Lakshmi. Okay. Chalo. So, sometimes it is a process, conflict is a process, as it is the antithesis of cooperation. It is against cooperation. Because people are going to dominate each other, or people are going to eliminate each other, or people are going to weaken the competitors, then we call it as conflict. Conflict can be classified into 4 types, my dear friends. It can be of 4 types. Conflict can be of 4 types. The first one, if 2 nations are going to fight with each other, if 2 nations are going to fight with each other, then we call it as war. You can see Russia and Ukraine are fighting with each other. When 2 nations are going to fight with each other, then we call it as war. When people are going to fight within the country into small groups, then we call it as feud, F-E-U-D, feud. When 2 groups are going to fight with each other, then we call it as feud. But if 2 nations are going to fight with each other, then we call it as war. The third one is, if people are going to fight with each other, if there is a conflict because of property, then we call it as litigation. We call it as litigation. And the fourth one, people are also going to fight just because of not their views, but because of impersonal ideas. For example, all the soldiers who are there at the border, they are going to receive the instructions by their commander or by their superior. They do not have any enmity with the neighboring soldiers. They don't know each other. They don't have any problem. But because the commander has given the orders, these people will simply go and compete with them or fight with them. Then we call it as conflict of impersonal ideas. So conflict is of 4 types. What are they, beta? War, feud, litigation, and conflict of impersonal ideas. And according to your book, my dear friends, they have mentioned conflict into 2 types. It's there in page number 109. The first one is overt or latent conflict. This conflict, whatever it's there, it may not be available or it may not be appeared all the time. Okay, so whenever there is dissatisfaction among the individuals, at that time, this overt conflict will come into rise. I may have conflict with my wife, but I am not going to reveal this all the time, my dear friends. But whenever there is dissatisfaction with my wife, I'm going to tell there will be a conflict between me and my wife, or between me and my officer who is superior to me, or between me and the rest of the people who are there in the society. Then we call it as overt or latent conflict. The next one is personal or corporate conflict. If I'm going to have a conflict because of my ego has hurted or because I want to get some benefits out of it, then we call it as personal. And just now I said the fourth one is conflict of impersonal ideas. It is just like corporate conflict, where corporate people are going to fight with each other, or there is a conflict between the farmers and the business people. So at the time we call it as corporate one. So these are the types of conflict. So do we really require this conflict? Yes. Sometimes when you have differences in terms of thought, differentiation in terms of action, which I may like or may not like, at the time people will come together. Page number 109. At the time people will come together, sit together, and based on consensus, neither yours, neither mine. Neither yours, neither mine. Both the people are going to come together and they are going to come to consensus and they are going to come to an agreement, which is going to strengthen the bond. When there is strengthening of bond, at the time, do you know what happens? People will try to work effectively so that that organization, that society, or even the family can sustain. Even the family can sustain. First two are overtime latent or which one better? Someone is asking to explain about the types of conflict. According to your book, my dear friend, conflict has been classified into two types, overt or latent conflict. This conflict is not. I told you page number 109, guys. Overt or latent conflict will not appear all the time. I love my wife. At the same time, sometimes I may also hate my wife because of certain reasons. But I'm not going to exhibit all this conflict with my wife all the time. Whenever there is dissatisfaction, whenever I don't like the way she cooked the food or the way she dress on, the way she talks to some people, if I do not like it at the time, do you know what happens, Brenda? It may lead to conflict. We call it as overt or latent conflict. The next one is personal. If two people are going to fight with each other, then we call it as personal conflict. But if there is conflict between the groups in the society, or between two industrial people, or between the employer and the employee, then we call it as corporate conflict, my dear friends. Corporate conflict. So what is the importance of this conflict? When people have conflict, at the time they come together, they sit together, and based on consensus, they are going to work together. So it leads to group solidarity, my dear friends. Sometimes conflict will also help us in terms of group solidarity. When people know what the other people are thinking, at the time it will be easy for the people to modify their behavior or modify the set of rules and regulations which are there in that particular society or particular group. Okay, beta, by this we have completed social processes. Earlier class we also discussed about culture. We also discussed about socialization. Now we will be discussing about social institutions, page number 122. Page number 121 or 122. In each and every society, we are going to have multiple institutions which are going to satisfy the requirements of the people. Guys, can you change the slide if you want? Page number 122. And the basic institutions which we have in the society are marriage and family. Because family is the cradle of society. Family is the cradle of society because the child is first born in the family, and the family is going to train the child with the accepted norms and behavior which are there in that particular society, so that he imbibes that values, so that he can think the same way and behave the same way as the other people do, so that there is conformity. There is no deviance. So people are mild so that they behave in the same manner. So same way of thinking, same way of action will strengthen the bond between the people, my dear friends. So the basic institution, if you want to set up a family, then the first thing which we require is marriage. Marriage is the universal social institution which is found in each and every society. Remember, it is universal in nature. Marriage is nothing but it is a bond or a relation which is going to exist between man and woman so that they can satisfy their requirements. So let us see the characteristics, my dear friends. It is there in page number 123. It is universal in nature. You find the forms of marriage may vary from one place to the other place, but the marriage as an institution is found in each and every society. And marriage is the relation between a man and woman. But in some societies, gay marriages and even lesbian marriages are being accepted. But universally, in most of the countries, it is only bisexual marriages are accepted, not same-sex marriages. Marriage is based on certain rules, my dear friends, who how the marriage should be performed, who should perform the marriage, what must be the age for the boy and girl to go for marriage. So there are certain rules to be followed for the marriage, my dear friends. And whether the marriage is going to endure for a longer period, my dear friends, in the past, people used to say that once a boy and girl has tied the knot, and if they are going to take the 7 steps, then that bond is going to endure for 7 births. Not only 7 births, even they are going to be wife and husband even in the death. That was the philosophy which people thought. But right now, some people are seeking divorce, but even now, my dear friends, marriage is more or less enduring. And marriage also requires the approval of the people. Without approval of the societal members or the members of the society, or if it is not registered in the legal contract, then it will not be accepted. So each and every marriage or they are going to have certain civil and religious ceremonies. So these are the characteristics of marriage. Now let us discuss about the types of marriage. Marriages can be classified into 3 types, my dear friends. One is polygamy, monogamy, and the third one is group marriage. The first one is polygamy, monogamy, and group marriages. In the polygamy, a boy is going to have, or a boy or a girl is going to have multiple spouses, then we call it as polygamy, Polygamy, polygamy. Either the boy or the girl is going to have more than one spouse, means more than one wife or more than one husband, then we call it as polygamy. So in order to make it very, very clear, what they have done, they have classified polygamy into 2 types. Polygyny, 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 and the other one is polyandry, Polyandry, polyandry. Polygyny means a boy is going to have multiple wives, then we call it as polygyny. If a boy is going to have multiple wives, then we call it as polygyny. Polygyny is further classified into 2 types. If a boy is going to have multiple wives, and if all the wives are sisters, then we call it as sororal polygyny, SORORAL, sororal polygyny. If a boy is going to have multiple wives, and if all the wives are sisters, then we call it as sororal polygyny. And a boy is going to have multiple wives, but the wives are not sisters, then we call it as non-sororal polygyny. In Islam, a boy can have multiple wives, like he can have 4 wives legally, but the wives cannot be sisters. The wives cannot be sisters. So polygyny is accepted, but in polygyny, non-sororal polygyny is accepted in Islam, not sororal polygyny. Remember that. Okay. So polygyny means a boy is going to have multiple wives, and if wives are sisters, sororal, and if wives are not sisters, then we call it as non-sororal polygyny. So what are the causes for this polygyny? What are the reasons for that? The first one is a boy wants to have more people to work in the fields. If he's going to hire the people, he has to pay the money. So having multiple wives, these wives are going to work in the fields so that agriculture production increases, and in return, their economical condition will also improve for that. That is the first reason. Second one is the boy wants to have more children. He wants to have more children. So a lady cannot give birth to more children. For that reason, he can have multiple wives. One is for economical. The second one is for children. Some people, they may have children, but they want a male child. But the lady is giving birth only to female children, not a girl child, but not to the boy child. So for a want of male child, the people can go for next marriage, second, third, and so on. The fourth one is, think a boy got married, but the lady is barren. She is not giving birth to children at all. So the boy wants to have children so that their legacy, their culture, their tradition, everything will be passed on. For that reason, the boy may go for second or third marriage. One is to have more children, or for the want of a male child, or the lady is not giving birth to child at all. The lady is barren for that reason also. The next one is the boy wants to have multiple wives because it was a status symbol. If you go to Rajasthan, there is Hawa Mahal. And you know how many windows are there to the Mahal? The king has constructed the number of windows in such a way that it is equal to the number of queens. He has more than 100 queens. He expected that all the queens will sit in their separate balcony and they will enjoy all the procession which is going on in the kingdom. So in order to have privacy, so he has constructed that many windows, balconies, so that the queens can enjoy it. It was a status symbol for the people. The next one is, some people think that it's there in the book, just giving example, guys. Okay. Some people think that different girls have different tastes. So for a variety of taste also, people used to go for multiple marriages. So these are the causes for polygyny. Then we'll go for polyandry. Polyandry means a girl is going to have multiple husbands. We call it as polyandry. And if a girl is going to have multiple husbands, and if they are brothers, then we call it as fraternal polyandry. Fraternal, fraternal polyandry. And if the husbands are not brothers, then we call it as non-fraternal polyandry. If we take the epics, two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, these two are the examples for polygyny and polyandry. If we see Mahabharata, in that Draupadi is having 5 husbands, all 5, she married to 5 Pandavas, brothers, and all they are brothers, isn't it, guys? So it is fraternal polyandry. And if you take the other epic, Ramayana, in that Rama's father, Dashrath, he had 3 wives. It is the example for non-sororal polygyny. So what are the causes for this polyandry? The first one is, the people, if they are going to get married with different girls, what happens? The property will be shared. So the size of the property will come down. They want to retain the property. They want to keep the property intact. So tomorrow, different girls. So obviously problem will be there. So for that reason, they thought that let us marry to one girl so that one girl will not have any problem. The property, everything will be intact. That is one. Second one, in some regions of the world or in some parts of the country, we have the concept of dower, not dowry, dower, kanya shulkamu, bride's price. So the bride's price was too costly that a boy could not pay it. So some boys used to come together, they used to pool the money and they used to pay to the girl's parents, and in turn they used to get married. The next one is, the male population is more, whereas the female population is very, very less, that people can go for monogamy. Means everyone gets an individual wife, my dear friends. Because the male population is very, very high and female population is very low. So each and every boy does not get the opportunity to go for marriage. That's the reason why people used to go for this polyandry. Okay, so these are the reasons for polygyny and polyandry. Then we also have monogamy. Monogamy is a form of marriage in which one boy is going to get married to one girl in the lifetime or at a time. Then we call it as monogamy. It is universally accepted. It is universally accepted, my dear friends. It is the best form of marriage. Why? Because a boy will have only one lady and the lady will have only one husband. So they have ample time to understand each other, adjust with each other. And there will not be any psychological problems too. And the size of the family will be very, very limited that they can satisfy each other's requirements like biological needs, psychological needs, emotional needs. Then whatever the needs of the people are there, they can satisfy it. This is one of the best form of marriage. And the next one is group marriage. In this form of marriage, 4 or 5 girls and 4 or 5 boys are going to come together and they are going to go for marriage. And all the girls are treated as the wives of this group, and all the boys are treated as the husbands of the group. So anybody can have any relation, any biological relation with anyone. This kind of marriage is found among the Congans of Brazil, my dear friends. It is very, very less, my dear friends. And in this group, the children were taken care. The children were taken care by the mother's brother in this society. Okay, so we are going to have 3 forms of marriage. So what kind of rules and functions are there? If you see in the Indian society, we are going to have 2 concepts. One is endogamy and exogamy. End in itself, remember endogamy, end in itself. Exogamy means outside. So a boy has to marry the girl within the same religion and same caste. Then we call it as endogamy. People have to marry within the same religion, same caste. Then we call it as endogamy. So accepting the girl from outside is not acceptable. They are supposed to marry within the same. But at the same time, we also have exogamy. A boy cannot marry. In 4 ways, my dear friends, we have exogamy. There are 4 types of exogamy. The first one is sapinda exogamy. Sapinda. If a child is born to the same parent, they are treated as brother and sister, so they cannot go for marriage. There cannot be marriage between a brother and sister. So we go for sapinda exogamy. We go for sapinda exogamy. The next one is pravara. Pravara exogamy. That means if people are going to worship the same saint, even they cannot go for marriage. Then the third one is Sagotra exogamy. If people are going to have the same gotra, then they are the children, they are placed from the same lineage. So they are treated as brother and sister, they cannot go for marriage. Sapinda exogamy, Pravara exogamy, Sagotra exogamy. And in some places, we also have the 4th one is village exogamy. Means a boy and girl, if they are born and brought up in the same village, they can also, they cannot go for marriage, my dear friends. So there are 4 types of exogamy. Endogamy means marrying within the religion and within the caste, but at the same time they have to maintain 4 exogamies: Pravara, Sagotra, Sapinda, and village exogamy. Now let us discuss about the preferences in terms of marriages. The first one is cross cousin marriages. Cross cousin marriages. In the cross cousin marriages, for example, myself, I can marry my mom's brother's daughter. It is accepted. I can marry my mom's brother's daughter. She's cross cousin to me. But at any point of time, I cannot marry my father's sister's daughter. It is not acceptable. Very, very rare. It also happened, but first preference is given to the cross cousins to my maternal uncle. A boy can marry the maternal uncle's daughter. And if I have a sister, she can get married to my dad's sister's son, maternal uncle. Okay. Then who is this parallel cousin? My dad, he has a brother and his brother has a daughter. If I'm going to marry my chacha's daughter, then we call it as parallel cousin. Among Hindus, parallel cousin marriages are not accepted, but among Muslims, it is accepted. They give first preference to the parallel cousins, then to the cross cousins, my dear friends. Among Hindus, it is denied, but the first priority is given among Muslims for the parallel cousins. The third one is, yes? The third one is levirate. This is the practice of marrying the dead husband's brother. For example, there is a lady. She got married to a boy. And after some time, for some
Excuse me, sir.
other reason, the husband has been put to death. So who has to take care of the lady? So at that time, this lady is going to get married to the husband's brother. Because husband is no more, she is going to get married to the husband's brother. Then we call it as levirate. Then we also have sororate. This is the practice of marrying the dead wife's sister. For example, a boy got married to a lady, and for some reason the wife expired. At the time, the boy is going to marry the deceased wife's sister. Then we call it as sororate. So these are the four types of preferences. So there must be a question from your side. Sir, why sororate and why levirate? Why lady has to marry the husband's brother, or why the boy has to marry the deceased wife's sister? For example, think the couple has children. Think the boy or the girl is going for next marriage. And a boy or a girl, the wife or the husband is a new person. Do you think that they are going to take care of the first wife or first husband's children properly? Maybe or may not be. So in order to reduce the pain, preventing is better than curing. So what they have thought, like if I'm going to marry my deceased husband's brother, he likes his brother, so obviously he will also like his brother's children, so he may properly take care of them. So that is the reason why people have gone for levirate or sororate, my dear friends. Okay, now let us discuss the functions of marriage. The first one is to regulate the sexual life of individuals. It helps the people to set up a family. It also helps the people to give birth to children, take care of children, my dear friends. It also helps the children in educating the children so that they are going to become the good members or the good citizens of that respective state or country. Marriage also forges a new social life, my dear friends, because people can come together, they are going to set up a family, they are going to get new relations. It also leads to social solidarity. Now let us discuss about the trends which are changing. Actually, in the olden days, people used to select who is going to select the spouse for the child. Beta, parents used to select it, but right now, parents are in some cases, parents are going to select the spouse for the child with the consent of children, or in some cases, children all alone are going to select the partner for themselves. In the olden days, it was the physical capacity of the girl, whether she is eligible to give birth to a child or not. That was the condition to go for marriage. But right now, according to Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the age to go for marriage for girls is 18 and for boys it is 21. So that has been changed. And recently, there is also a committee saying that even for girls, it should be 21 years. Both the boy and girl should get 21 years of age to go for marriage. And we also see a lot of change in terms of size of family. Once upon a time, we used to have a joint family where 3 or 4 generations of people used to stay together. But right now, nuclear families are taking place. And my great granny, she has given birth to a cricket team, 11 members. My granny, she has given birth to a kabaddi team, 7 people. Coming to my mom, she gave birth to 4 children. And coming to myself, I've given birth. I have only 1 child, girl child. See, there is a lot of difference. Once upon a time, people used to give birth to children continuously. They used to have a dialogue. Bhagwan chippad padke dera. It is the will and the wish of the God. So if you're going against the will and wish of God, it is a sin. The person who is going to sow the seed will also water the plant. So what is the need for us to take the tension? But right now, we can see that most of the people are giving birth to less children. So in size and in structure of family, there is a tremendous change, my dear friends. Then we also have breakdown of marriages. Once upon a time, once they used to get married, by whether they liked or not, they used to continue the relation. But right now, what is happening, beta? For no reason or for different reasons, people are going to simply break the bond. Only in Hyderabad, my dear friends, nearly 62,000 divorce cases are pending in the courts. Then imagine how many cases must be pending across the country, my dear friends, for some of the reason, which can be easily rectified, which is not at all a big problem, my dear friends. Even for that reasons, also people are going breaking the relations. The next one is because of economic globalization. People are migrating from one place to the other place in search of job, in search of economical prosperity. So that is also one of the reasons for breakdown of families. And some of the girls or boys, like once they get married, they want to have freedom, ultimate freedom. So just because they want to have ultimate freedom, they think that getting married, getting into a bond is putting them in some shackles. Like, so 11% of the global families, do you know what they are saying? They are saying we don't want to have children at all. Some people are saying no, we don't have to want to go for marriage. We want to stay in live-in relation, so that no legal marriage. So tomorrow there is no need for us to go to the court to avail divorce, my dear friends. That kind of concepts are increasing just because people are thinking they want to have more freedom. And we also have change in values. We can also see that premarital and postmarital sexual relations are also increasing, my dear friends. And that is also one of the reasons for cases or issues across the country. And we can also see that parents, they are running behind money, but they are not in a position to take care of the children properly. They are thinking that giving money is everything for the child. It is not so, my dear friends. And do you know what happens? Because they don't educate them, so tomorrow there can be a problem. So we can also see there are plenty of changes in terms of rules. What girls used to do, what boys are supposed to do, like that has gone, and everyone is doing all the rules, my dear friends, in this 21st century. So these kind of changes have been taken place in the modern societies, my dear friends. Now let us go for family. Family is the basic unit of society. It is the basic unit of society. Marriage allows the people to set up a family. Marriage allows the people to set up a family. Family is a group defined by a set of sexual relations sufficiently precise and enduring to provide for the procreation and upbringing of children. According to Mike Ivor, he said that it is a sexual relation between a boy and girl which endures for longer period, but also allows them to give birth to children and also take care of the children, my dear friends. Okay, now let us discuss about the characteristics of family. Family is found across the globe, so it is universal in nature. Each and every family is going to have a fixed habitation. Each and every family also provides financial provision for the members. The size of the family may vary. It also has a size. If you take a size, if you see the size of Kaurava's family, it's more than 100, my dear friends. So the size is smaller, but it varies from one place to the other place. And the types of families may also vary from one society to the other society. It may be nuclear family, joint family, or extended family. It may vary from one place to the other place. And each and every family may also have a distinctive name. And the family members or the families build upon love, affection, sympathy, emotions, cooperation, and so on, my dear friends. Now let us discuss about the types of family. Family can be classified into and the other one is joint. In the nuclear family, wife and husband with their unmarried children, with or without children, or if they are going to have children with the unmarried children, if they are going to stay together, then we call it as nuclear family. Wife and husband along with their unmarried children or with no children, if they are going to stay at one place, then we call it as nuclear family. Then what is this a joint family? In the joint family, we are going to have minimum 3 generations of people, minimum 3 generations. Grandparents, parents, and children. Minimum 3 generations of people are going to stay under one roof. If they are going to stay under one roof, and if they are going to cook the food at one place, and if they are going to have the food collectively, do all religious, economical activities collectively, then we call it as joint family. Minimum 3 generations, staying at one place, cooking the food at one place, having the food collectively, doing religious activities collectively, doing economical activities collectively, then we call it as joint family. Then the third one is extended family. Extended families consist of 2 or more nuclear families affiliated through extension of
ఎట్టకేలకు నా చేతిలో ఉన్న కట్టాన్ని తన ఇళ్ళ మీద దేవుని కేకలు పెట్టి నేలకొని వచ్చిందనుకుని ఖడ్గాన్ని బయటికి మళ్ళీ ఎలా ప్రకారం వేసిలించు ఇక లాభం లేదా కానీ ఖడ్గాన్ని తన గుండెల్లో తింటి ఇక బయటికి తీయకుండా అలాగే కుదిరేది. నేను మా ప్రజలు మీ రుణాన్ని ఎప్పటికీ తీర్చుకోలేదు.
మరి కొంచెం కావాలా?
కాదంట.
అవును, ఆ శంఖం అది మీ దగ్గరే ఉంది కదా?
లేదు.
Actually, in India, we don't have.
Sharon, mute yourself. Ram, wireless here, but mute yourself.
Sorry. Hello.
Yes, sir. We can continue.
Okay. Actually, in India, we don't have the concept of extended families because 2 or more nuclear families are going to come together, stay together in terms of parent-child relationship. But in the modern society, slowly this is happening. A boy and girl got married, they are separated. And now this girl got married to the other boy. The girl has few children and the boy also have few children. And they got married to the other boy or girl. They also have children. So at the time, they are going to come together and stay together. Then we call it as extended families. But the concept of extended families is very, very rare in the Indian concept. Okay. Then go for the based on authority. Families can be classified into 2 types. Based on authority, families can be classified into 2 types. One is matriarchal and the other one is patriarchal. It is there in page number 129, first paragraph. One is matriarchal and the other one is patriarchal. In the P for Papa, patriarchal family, remember like that. M for Mama, P for Papa. In the patriarchal family, the elder male member is going to exercise all the authority in the family. Then we call it as patriarchal family. In the matriarchal family, M for Mama, Mama or the elder female member in the family is going to exercise all the power. Then we call it as matriarchal family. Based on descent, the marriages can be classified into 2 types. One is patrilineal and the other one is matrilineal. P for Papa again, M for Mama. In the patrilineal, the children are traced from the father's side or from the male side. Then we call it as patrilineal. I'm going to get the surname of my dad, not my mom. I'm going to get the gotra of my dad, not my mom, because ours is a patrilineal family. But if you go to Kerala, among Nayars, you'll also find this matriarchal families. The children are traced from the mother's side. The children are going to get the surname of the mother and even they are traced from the mother's side. We call it as matrilineal families. Based on relationship, you can classify the families into 2 types. One is conjugal. If there is any relation between a boy and girl just because of marriage, then we call it as conjugal family. I'm going to set up a family with a girl because I got married to the girl. Then we call it as conjugal. And blood relatives, myself and my parents, we are blood relatives. Myself and my sister, my siblings, we are blood relatives. And if there is a family, then we call it as consanguine. Consanguine, consanguine family. Blood relatives are known as consanguine, and based on marriage, it is conjugal. Based on residence, the families can be classified into 5 types. In your book, they must have given only 2 types, my dear friends. But based on residence, they can classify families into 5 types. The first one is matrilocal. After the marriage, if the newly wedded couple is going to stay with the girl's parents, then we call it as matrilocal family. And after the marriage, if the newly wedded couple are going to stay with the boy's parents, then we call it as patrilocal family. One is matrilocal and the other one is patrilocal. And if the girl's parents and boy's parents are very, very close relatives, and if they are going to stay in the same locality, and these people are going to stay in either of the parents' house, they stay one day here, they stay one day there, then at the time we call it as bi-local families, bi-residential. One is matrilocal, the other one is bi-local, the third one is patrilocal. And after the marriage, if the couple is going to stay with the girl's maternal uncle, Mena Mama, if she's going to stay, or if they're going to stay with the boy's maternal uncle family, then we call it as Avanku local family. AVUNCILOCAL. Avanku, AVUNCULOCAL. Avanku local family. And the last one is, if after the marriage, if the boy and girl are not going to stay in either of the parents' house, not with the maternal uncle's family, but they are going to set up a new family, a nuclear family, then we call it as neo-local family, NAULOCAL, neo-local family. So based on residence, there are 5 types of families: matrilocal, patrilocal, bi-local, avanku local, and neo-local families. Based on marriage, the families can also be classified into monogamous family, means a boy got married only to one girl, monogamous marriage, monogamous family. Or a boy or girl has multiple spouses, then we call it as polygamous family. Polygamous family means they are going to have multiple husbands or multiple wives. So you can also classify that, like we said, polyandry and polygyny. So you can also go for that also. So based on marriage, you're going to have monogamy and polygamous marriage. Now let us discuss the rules of descent. Already rules of residence we have discussed, like 5 types: matrilocal, patrilocal, bi-local, avanku, all this. Now let us discuss about the functions of family. Functions of family. The functions of the family can be classified into 2 types. One is primary functions and the other one is secondary functions. The first one is primary functions and the other one secondary functions. The first one is people want to go for marriage to satisfy the biological or the sexual needs. That is the primary function of the family. And they also want to have children, giving birth to children, taking care of the children, reproductive. This comes under primary functions, my dear friends. And even in the pre-literate societies, where there is no education, where there is no settlement, they also have a place where people used to settle, and they also used to provide the food so that they can satisfy their requirements. So whatever the basic needs are there, it is essential even in the pre-literate societies. That's the reason why we put that in the primary functions. Now let us discuss about the secondary functions of family. Secondary functions. Now under that, the first one is affection. Without affection, without love and affection, a family cannot sustain, my dear friends, for a longer period in a smoothful way. If there is no love and affection, then there will be a conflict between wife and husband, Not only it will not stop there, but it will also be passed on to the next generation in the form of chromosomes. Both mama and papa, they are going to contribute 23 chromosomes each, which combined together goes to 46 chromosomes. Out of 46, only 2 chromosomes, XX and XY, are going to decide your gender, like boy or girl. And do you know what the rest of the 44 chromosomes does? It is going to decide how you have to look like, your appearance, your habits, your disease, your health, and so on. The way you look, the way you behave, all these things, you're also going to inherit from your parents in the form of chromosomes, in the form of 44 chromosomes, which becomes 80% of your life, which is nothing but 80% of you, what you are. And the society at large is going to influence the rest of the 20%. And this 20% can also dominate the 80% of your features, characteristics, everything which you have inherited from your parents. But for most of the cases, my dear friends, it is vice versa. It can be the parents can be, their chromosomes can be influencing us. So we require love and affection so that they can be happy. The next generation can also be happy. The next one is, in order to satisfy the requirements of the people, we also require economical function. So both wife and husband, they are going to contribute for the economical development of the family. The third one is recreational function. Once upon a time, the family itself used to be the recreational function. Till my 4th standard, there was no electricity. Forget about television, forget about radio, all these things. There was not even electricity in my house. At that time, we siblings, along with our parents, with my grandparents, we used to play together. We used to play Antakshari. My granny used to tell the stories during the night time. We used to play Chor Police. We used to play Asta Chamma. We used to sing, dance together. The family itself used to provide recreational. But right now, do you know what happened, beta? It has been outsourced. The next one is protective function of the family. If any person is sick, if any person is ill, or if any person lost the husband or wife, the family itself used to take care of all the members. It used to go for protective one, not only for the disease, not only people who have lost, but even for the children, they used to take care of this protection activity. So it also goes for protective function. And all the people in the family, they are going to do all the religious activity collectively, so that whatever the religious philosophy is there, that can be passed on to the next generation, religious function. And the last one is, they also educate the children of what? To make the living, about the knowledge which is available in that society, about the resources which are available. So they used to educate in all the domains so that they can make a living out of it. So these are the functions of family, secondary functions of family. Even without this also, my dear friends, the family can sustain. But in the modern societies, we classify the functions of family into 2 types, primary and secondary. Now let us discuss about the changing trends of family. Joint families are being broken up into nuclear families. First one, in the olden days, before marriage, before setting up a family, people never used to have any sexual pleasure like, but right now pre and post-marital, extramarital relations are taking place. Before they used to maintain proper relations, but right now it is going on. And people used to have more children in the olden days, but right now it is coming down. Affectional function has gone down. Economical function, in the olden days, boys used to take care of all the functions, whereas female used to take care of household activities. But right now, both the wife and husband are earning. So girls are having economical freedom. And just because of that, you can also see a lot of changes there. They also have purchasing capacity. They also have decision making and whatnot, my dear friends. And the parental control on the children has come down. It has become big. Protective function of the family has weakened because right now both wife and husband are busy. So we have this police system, she teams, and so on to take care of the people's requirement. And whatever the activities were taken care by the family, right now all these have been outsourced. If both the wife and husband are working, in order to take care of children, we have baby care centers. In order to take care of old parents, We have maids or nurse, or sometimes we drop them in old age homes. In order to do all the activity at home, we are going to hire a maid or servant to wash the clothes. Washing machines came. And in order to have the food, hotels, transportation, Ola, Swiggy, Uber, all this came into existence, my dear friends. Everything is being outsourced. And even for children's education, we are not only dropping them in the schools, but if they are not doing good at education, at studies, we simply drop them in the tutorials. So everything is being outsourced, my dear friends. And once upon a time, people used to have faith in the religion, but right now it is a showpiece for most of the people. They're not practicing the religious philosophy or belief system in a proper way. It's only for saying that I belong to a particular religious sect. That's it. That is what is happening in most of the urban centers, my dear friends. So affectional function has been changed. All the other has also been changed. Now let us discuss about kinship. Kinship is nothing but relationship between the people. So there are two types of kins, my dear friends. Consanguine kins and affinal kins. Consanguine, blood relatives are known as consanguine kin group. And if there is any kinship which is based on marriage, then we call it as affinal kin. Based on marriage, if they are going to become relatives, then we call it as affinal kin group. So here we are going to have three types of descent in terms of kinship: patrilineal, matrilineal, and bilateral descent. If the people are going to trace from the father's side, patrilineal. If people are going to trace from the mother's side, then we call it as matrilineal. But if they are going to trace from both the sides, then we call it as bilateral one. Then we have certain words, terminology in terms of kinship, like lineage, clan, patry, and moiety. So if we are going to trace from either side, unilineal or bilineal, like we are going to call it as lineage. Patrilineal, matrilineal, we call it as lineage. And if the members of a unilineal kin group cannot actually trace their relationship, but can only acknowledge a common descent, then we call it as clan or a sith. People think that they are the common descent of a particular ancestor. Like for Hindus, we are going to have Gotra. They think that they are the descendant of that particular person. Like if they are going to think like that, then we call it as clan. Then the third one is when the clan is becoming very, very big. Sorry, when two or more clans recognized in a same way at that time, we call it as patry. P-H-R-A-R-T-R-Y. Kinship is nothing but the relationship. Kinship is nothing but the relationship between the people. So there are two types of kinship, my dear friends. One is consanguine and affinal kin group. For example, myself and my wife, we got married and we are going to become relatives just because of marriage. We call it as affinal kin group. But myself and my sibling, my sister, my brother, we are going to become kin because we are blood relatives. So we call it as consanguine kin group. Okay. If two or more clans are going to have same, like if they are going to recognize same based on conventional unilineal bond of kinship, then we call it as patry. If a group has two or more clans or patries, so that every person is a member of one or the other, then we call it as the dual division is called as moiety. So in terms of degree of kinship, my dear friends, we are going to have three types of kinship. We are going to have three types of kins: primary kins, secondary kinship, and tertiary. Primary, secondary, and tertiary. If a person is directly linked with each other, with the other person, then we call it as primary kin. Myself and my wife. Who is she? She is my wife. Who is she? She is my mom. Who is she? He is my dad. She is my child. if you're going to consider them or if directly related with each other, then we call it as primary kin. My mom and dad are primary kin. Myself and my dad, my mom, we are primary kin. If they're directly, then we call it as primary kin. Think myself, my wife and my mom has gone to the market. And somebody asks my mom, who is this lady? Then my mom will tell that she is my elder son's wife. She's not going to simply say daughter-in-law, but she's going to, because she has two or more male child, she's going to say she is the wife of my elder male child. She is going to say my elder child's wife. Then we call it as secondary. My mom and my dad are going to be secondary kin to my wife. My wife is also secondary kin to my parents. And if my wife, okay, got it, beta, secondary kin? My sister, she got married and she has husband. For my sister, husband is the primary kin, but my sister's husband is the secondary kin for me. Who is he? My sister's husband. It is secondary kin. And what is this tertiary kin? Tomorrow I have a child. Or else my wife has a sister. Who is she? Then my elder son's wife's sister. My wife's parents are going to become tertiary to my parents. Who are they? My elder son's wife's parents. We call it as tertiary kin. So there are three types of degree. One is primary kin, directly connected with each other. Primary of primary, we call it as secondary. Primary of secondary, we call it as tertiary kin. Now let us discuss about kinship terminology or some kinds of usages. The first one is in your book, they did not mention about technonymy. Technonymy. Just like you can, if you stretch it, take no name, technonymy, take no name. In this, the girl or the wife, in some communities, they think that they are not supposed to take the name of the husband. They believe that if the lady is going to take the name of the husband, then the life or the longevity of the husband will come down. The lifespan will come down. That is what they do. If somebody comes to the house to meet the husband and the lady is outside and she has to call the husband, then do you know what they do? Ramu ka papa, Ramu's father, what are you doing? Someone came to meet you. That is how they call. They take the name of the child and they are going to say, hey, the father of XYZ, someone came to meet you. That we call it as technonymy, take no name. The next one we have deference. Deference is the show of respect towards particular group of relatives. Particular group of relatives. So we call it as deference. Then we also have avoidance. That there cannot be interaction between father-in-law and daughter-in-law. There cannot be, a mother-in-law cannot come in front of son-in-law. There we have some set of regulations, restrictions, my dear friends, we call it as avoidance. Who cannot speak to whom or with whom? We have certain conditions. Then we also have joking relations. Who can have joking relation? A brother-in-law and a sister-in-law. They can have a joking relation. Grandparents and grandchildren can also have joking relation. So these are the kinship usages which we have, my dear friends. Okay. Now let us discuss about the changing trends in terms of kinship. In the olden days, all the kings, irrespective of affinal or conjugal, they used to come together at some or the other time and they used to share all. But right now in the modern societies, the kinship bond, either affinal or consanguine, is becoming weaker. Nowadays, people, they do not interact with each other. When there is no interaction, the relation is also going to become very, very weak, my dear friends. It is no more stronger. And today, the younger generation do not even know who their relatives are, who are the relatives like. So obviously, because they are very, very close with the friends, because they have their own ambitions, aspirations, they're giving least importance to the family relations. So obviously, they do not know that is what is happening. And when they do not know, so obviously they do not come together. So whatever the long-standing traditional relations are there, tradition is there, they are not in a position to understand it, practice it. So their tradition is simply vanishing off, my dear friends. There is plenty of change, both in the structure as well as functional changes, and even cultural changes are taking place, my dear friends. So these are the major changes which are taking place in terms of kinship. Beta, shall we stop here or shall we continue? So beta, we'll go for religion. Religion is a system of norms guiding behavior related to man's search for ultimate meaning, a concern with ultimate meaning, a search for the explanation of meaning of life, death, and other difficulties. So because each and every person cannot give explanation for each and everything, so they are trying to do research, they are trying to do different practices in order to know the ultimate truth. Who am I? Where I came from? Why do I die? Why problems come? And when I die, what goes of my body and where it goes? People want to know the ultimate truth. So first, in order to find the ultimate truth, people have created a religion and certain patterns by which people can find some solutions for all these questions. Let us discuss the characteristics of this religion. Religion is a group phenomenon because all the individuals are going to come together, and based on their emotions, based on the thoughts, they are going to make a belief system, and which is going to make a collective feeling, my dear friends. It is a group phenomenon. And next one is, it is concerned with the concept of sacred and supernatural powers. In each and every religion, we have the concept of sacred and profane, as Imal Durkheim has mentioned. Imal Durkheim has said that there are two concepts. One is sacred and the other one is profane. Pavitra, apavitra. Pavitramainadi, apavitra. Sacred is pavitra. Profane is apavitra. In each and every religion, we have the concept of sacred and profane. Sacred is acceptable, whereas profane is not desirable. And if any person does anything which is not acceptable by that particular community, those people will be punished, my dear friends. So each and every religion is going to have a concept of sacred. It may be in terms of belief, in terms of food patterns, dress code, marriage, relations, and whatnot, my dear friends. And each and every religion thinks that there is a God, and God has supernatural powers, my dear friends, who can cure the problems, who can console us whenever we are having fear or whenever we are in sorrow or any problem, my dear friends. And the third one is, it also involves a body of belief system. It involves a set of practices and rituals, like Muslims do namaz every